Trying to attend worship in a world gone pandemic to endemic, torn by the same old human grievances, it always has been, can be quite stressful. But it's in times like these more than ever that we must feed the spiritual part of ourselves. That's why we're happy to host Crescent City's very own United Methodist Church every Sunday at 11 a.m. Whether you're on the go or just unable to get out of the house, we've got you covered. Service hymns, readings from scripture, thoughtful discussion, and a place to vent joys and concerns. Pastor Dana Gilbert provides this and much more every week, Sundays at 11 a.m. Listen on 101.1 FM on your radio dial or stream it online anywhere at kfugradio.org.
You're tuned to KFUGLP Crescent City 101.1 on your FM radio dial worldwide on the internet, kfugradio.org. I'm Mike Thornton, sitting in for Paul Kritz for about, I don't know, we'll see. And we're joined by David Sedgwick of Crescent City's United Methodist Church.
Bit of a mouthful, yeah.
It is, well, yeah, especially when you're on your 20th cup of coffee.
A mouthful for community service.
Get that jitters going.
Yeah.
UMC!
Represent! So David, you're
UMC.
You're here with us to talk about some really interesting things that are going on at the church. And, share with our audience what you and Pastor Dana and the rest of the folks at the church are up to.
Yeah, so like you said, we have a lot of potentially really rewarding and interesting things going on over there. We've been in talks and trying to source some funding for a long time, trying to get donations from people who are interested in the same kinds of things that we are. We have a number of community outreach things in place already, that the church has been doing for years, but we're trying to knock into high gear. Like, for example, we do a lot of bag lunches the first and third Tuesday of every month, we get people together, put together sandwiches, lunches, and we put those over to Del Norte Mission Possible, who then gets those over to the Open Door Community Clinic.
So you're working in conjunction with them.
Yes, that's right. They run the program, and we trade off with the Episcopal Church. They do the second and fourth, and we alternate Tuesdays, Sundays, and we get lunches over to them so that the homeless community can go take showers at Open Door and have something to eat. So that's been going on for a little while. But we have a number of new services that we've been working on, and they've been going for a few months now. One of which is every Friday night, we have a community gathering called Safe Space from 6 to 9 p.m., which is it's a wonderful chance for members of LGBTQIA+ members to come and hang out, have a place to just gather, hang out. We play games. We have potluck on the first Friday of every month. Just have a place to be around other people.
Well, Persephone, you were particularly interested in this aspect of what the church
it's geared
was
towards
doing.
me.
Yeah.
Local trans woman, lonely and queer. I mean, I very much liked the idea from the start. I recorded the radio PSA, but I never had the chance to go down. For one, just the bus schedules are kind of ridiculous. It closed right before the time, so I just could never actually make it. And I heard at first it was like only a few people, but very quickly that it became like a really big group.
It blew up real fast. The first couple of weeks, and I've been there for most Fridays as well, just hanging out, just being part of the group.
I mean, I get it. It's not like... It's not trying to make anything more of itself than it's a place to be. It sounds really enticing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like you said, the first couple of meetings was pretty much just a family and a couple of people. And then in less than a month, we had a gathering of like 20, 25, and it's kind of dipped up and down between 10 and 20 ever since. Nice. And especially with the introduction of the potluck, which also, by the way, is a karaoke night on the first Friday of every month, which gets pretty raucous pretty quick. There's a whole lot of ABBA and you name it. There's songs going on.
Live karaoke from Crescent City Methodist Church.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
It's good. Yeah. But I'm hearing this is like the one spot in Crescent City you can actually hang out somewhere, because it's been, I guess my reporting pulse, there's nothing to do. That's the only thing I hear youth say, but this is the first.
Yeah. It's just not only the first like Friday night event where you can come do something, but I mean, especially
that's the special one.
Yeah, that's the special part. But I mean, even more special, it's a church community, and our doors are open to anybody.
And not to mention, from the programs you guys are running, a true church community. We were talking just off the air, the real message of caring for thy neighbor.
Yeah, right. And not actually excluding anybody simply because they don't believe precisely what you do in the way that you practice. It's very cool.
David, I don't know if you can speak to this or not, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Sure.
And you can answer or not. I mean, one of the things I think that makes what y'all are doing in this regard at United Methodist even more important is that not only, to the best of my knowledge, are no other churches in this community doing that, and I've heard there's actually at least one or more that are really engaged in some pretty detrimental activities when it comes to people who identify themselves as other than, quote unquote, straight heterosexual.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that something you can speak to at all?
Yeah, it certainly is. I've had a number of either friends or, most interestingly, I teach a lot of music lessons around the county as well. And one of my students belongs to the Catholic Church in town, and I invited him and his mother to come to one of our services just so that they could see what we did as far as the music went, because I was doing a piano solo that day, and it's important for your students to observe you in action. And as they sat through the rest of the service, they came up afterwards and they were like, this is so different than what we hear elsewhere. It's always, if you are not on this particular road, you're going to hell. Or if you don't practice these kinds of things a certain way, then you're in the bad. You're in the bad, percentage of the people. And it was so wonderful to listen to somebody preach about something so inclusive. And being a woman herself, Pastor Dana is already a unique kind of presence in this community.
And somebody who's also like under 104.
Yes, right. Yeah,
and
that's a
a
big
proud
difference.
queer woman, from what I understand.
Yes, she is. Yeah, identifies as.
Sorry.
We're speaking with David Sedgwick of Crescent City's United Methodist Church.
Oh, it's just so shocking to me how pleasant it is. But I personally have an odd relationship with it. I'm formerly from a Southern Baptist church in deep, dirty South.
Oh yeah.
Harsh beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I spent a number of years out in Texas, straight Bible Belt community, and I worked as a freelancer out there, and I played for a number of different churches, and that was generally the vibe.
Yeah, there's a pattern down there, but just up here, I'm enticed. It's comforting. I don't have to. Yeah. There's not really a second thought about it.
Well, just kind of the nature of this community. It's pretty reflective of the same kind of ideals. There's a lot of the same political alignments and all that kind of stuff. So to have that breath of fresh air in this place is really nice.
It's very nice.
So, David, the church is engaged in some other activities as well. Can you talk about those?
Yeah, absolutely. First things first, though, I just kind of wanted to refresh some basic information for you guys, since you guys have been broadcasting our services a week after the fact, which has been lovely, and I know that a lot of people access our services due to your guys' service, so thank you for that. But our location is still at 664H Street. Our worship time has, up until this week, this upcoming Sunday, we are changing from 12:30 p.m. to 9 a.m. So if anybody out there listening has been planning on attending and has been looking at our Facebook page or our website, that information is still outdated. So 9 a.m. is now our start time. And I don't know if that affects your guys' capacity to broadcast it a week later.
I'm just curious if it was done in conjunction of considering the upcoming NFL season.
I wish I could point to that, but no, it's due to our pastor is going to be splitting her time 3/4 at our church, and she's now going to be resuming a place for the Smith River United Methodist as well.
And my understanding is, to some degree, also taking on some duties in Klamath as well.
Klamath, I'm not so sure about.
I may have misunderstood that.
Yeah, I think she was referring to Smith River.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, things going on.
Yeah, so we have a number of really interesting musical things happening. I happen to be the music director of the United Methodist Church, in addition to my time as the accompanist and piano player there. We have 2 musical groups that have been rehearsing now, again, for several months. We have a handbell choir, which I'm pretty sure is unique to this county as well. It's a wonderful chance for fellowship. If you have no prior musical training, we work with people. We give special music lessons beforehand, just to kind of give you the basics and see if you're interested in actually participating. We have a vocal choir as well that has been doing fantastic work. We're just about to go on summer break, but once we get back in September, we're going to be preparing for a big push to once again, following the COVID lockdown, even though it's still a problem, we're going to be putting on our big Christmas concert bash again this year. We're tentatively shooting for Friday, December 23rd. Just get like all 3 days in a row. We got big Christmas concert, then Christmas Eve, and then Sunday morning for Christmas service. So that's a lot of fun as well. As far as other just community things going on, we have approval from our board of trustees to start bringing in gym equipment. This is kind of related to Safe Space, actually, because there's not a whole lot of, just exercise opportunities, in a communal space for people that feel insecure about their identity or, their physicality or things like that. So we have...
Or are rejected by others who don't feel comfortable about their identity in other spaces.
Exactly.
I mean, going straight for the safe space, a lot of, as a trans person, I like being somewhere safe.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the people that work out in our space, it's still fairly new. We have enough equipment to get a serious workout in, believe you me, but we have a couple of
You're
trained...
really luring me in.
Yeah, we got a couple of trained strength athletes. Actually, one of the members of our Safe Space community, Abigail, is a power lifter of some crazy degree, stronger than I am for sure. And we're working towards getting regular classes in a variety of different exercise fields. Strength training, either taught by Abigail or myself. Yoga sessions on currently Monday mornings, but it's going to change in the future. Varying degrees of difficulty. We have some boxing equipment. We're going to try and get some self-defense experts in to teach some classes. And all age ranges are welcome there too.
I'm about ready to convert.
I'm just gonna say, this is exciting as the person who does our promotions and stuff. Actually, if there happens to be a list of all these and details, I think that'd be something we'd like to share.
Yeah, totally. Well, so I have been planning on putting an update out on our Crescent City United Methodist Church Facebook page, where we post a lot of our updates about either our church services or just some of the more exciting things going on in our community. So I think it's about time that I give a little bit more detail on there. I know Candace Tinkler is a member of our church, is also in close communication with people over at Del Norte Triplicate, and we can expect to see some articles reflecting this updated information as well.
So one of the questions I have, David, is... So I'm trying to say this the way I really mean it. How does this all help to make the church more relevant in the community? And how does this help bring people to the church to perhaps hear what I think is probably, for the most part, a different interpretation of the gospel than most other churches are espousing in this community?
Well, think of all the things that we've been talking about. It's not necessarily related to God. It's related to community. And the community element of our church is obviously the most important thing to us. And to actually have a space where real people, whether or not they prescribe to a certain religious belief, like myself, for example, I've never considered myself, traditionally religious. As a musician, I've worked for churches. I kind of experience religion secondhand. And so my participation in a music capacity in this community has brought me to this place where now I have been hearing this version and interpretation of the gospel that is so inclusive. And so I now feel more compelled to participate in these things because of my oblique exposure to the church. And so I think for example, the weightlifting or the exercise or Safe Space, just having people around is the most important part. And the fact that once you get to know the members of the community that also happen to be part of the church, you start to get to know them on a personal level, and your interest in their interests religiously, it's kind of secondhand transference, right? And so you almost feel compelled, like I do, to want to experience the church on a deeper level if you're just involved.
So, once again, my understanding, I may be erroneous about this, but the church is also involved possibly with working with developer to perhaps get some affordable housing built in this community?
Yes, that's absolutely right. Yeah, Pastor Dana is on the board for a county group. I'm not exactly sure of the name, it escapes me. But yeah, they've been discussing ways to provide low-cost housing. I know there's talks about on the church grounds that large grass area is going to be, cultivated and kind of prepared in such a way where there can be some smaller, low-cost apartments for, lesser financially privileged members of the community.
Alex Lemus, who is the developer for the Crescent City Harbor project, is also very much involved with issues around housing, not only because of the relocation of residents living in the RV park, but also the recognized need for so-called workforce housing. He's going to be joining us on community service on Monday as well, so we'll have an opportunity to talk with him about that end of this. So, I mean, it just sounds like this church is really making a real effort to be more of a presence in the community. What's that like?
Well, without a doubt, that's totally true. What it's like for me, personally, I have never belonged as a member to any church until I moved here and, again, started working musically. I joined the church. I since rescinded my membership because it just, for whatever reason, my own personal beliefs, didn't quite line up. But I wanted to do so for the first time in my entire life because I saw the way that the membership at the United Methodist Church fought so hard to make a real world difference for people. Like the services they offer to the homeless community or the services they offer elsewhere. The whole purpose, to my understanding, of Methodism is finding a way to apply the ideals and teachings of Jesus Christ, in a way that affects the world in a positive way, and watching it happen and really happen, and the people, not just talking about an idealistic way to help the world, and if we believe hard enough, the change will come. They actually put in the work, they get the nuts and bolts, they get their hands dirty, and they do real things to help real people.
To me, it's one of the things that I feel is a real lack in a lot of religious institutions. It's like a lot of show up on Sunday, hear a bunch of pretty words, and
compare clothing, yeah,
whatever, and then just remain insular and wait for people to show up, as compared to actually going out and saying this is what we're about.
Well, right, but I mean, if you look at a number of those particular denominations or just institutions at large, I mean, the perpetuity of that somehow still happens, and I think it's a social kind of, it's easy to slip into a mode of thinking where, well, if I go to church and I listen to these messages and I feel that I believe them, I've done my part, and that's just not the case, all the time. And whether or not you leave with a feeling of self-fulfillment or feel like you believe that things should be better, unless you actually do the work and make things better, you're just keeping the thing moving.
So I have one final question for
Sure.
you. Going back to this image of somebody who's a musician who works for a church, right? Mm-hmm. And then somehow or another that leads me to that same person, in somewhat of a kind of quasi disguise, playing late Saturday nights at a smoky jazz club somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That dichotomy of musician life, yeah.
Is that happening?
It would take more time than we have, Mike, for me to tell you all of the things that we do musically around here.
Do you have a secret life as
every musician does.
Tyner or something?
Oh yeah, as soon as the sun goes down, musicians really start living,
So what is it that you want to leave our audience with today?
Really just that our church community is not just about the church, it's about the community. And if you feel similarly to me in that what you see out of most churches is a sense of wanting things but not actually putting in the work to do them, we're the church. Our doors are open to anybody who wants to come. Our message is for anybody who wants to hear it. And anybody who wants to be involved can participate in any number of ways, whether or not it's with time, talent, services, monetary donations. You can trust that all of the effort you put in is going to go out to the people who really need it.
And if people want to get more information?
Yeah, they can either email ccumc@gmail.com. They can visit our Facebook page, which is Crescent City United Methodist Church. Contact Pastor Dana directly, even myself. I am available on their website as well. And any one of us would be happy to point you in the direction of a way you can be helpful.
David Sedgwick, thank you for joining us on Community Service this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty, we'll go to a little bit of music. Paul will get back behind the mic and
and expect a fun.
I don't know about that.